In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Mistweaver Monk's new talent, Dance of ChiJi, and seeing is it worth it in Mythic Plus. My name's Ninja7, your resident Mistweaver Monk, and this discussion actually started on my stream where a lot of you guys were bringing up just how rarely this talent procs. So I ran a dungeon and I did some napkin math on stream, which I will show you guys. Since then, I have been diving into logs, doing sims, doing all these things that I'm going to be showing you in today's video to try to convince you that yes, it might proc pretty rarely or more rare than we'd hoped, but it's still a pretty solid talent and might actually be better than its common competitors. So first, I want to show you a clip from the key that we did on stream where yes, it does proc rarely, but when it lines up correctly when you want it to, it can pack a massive punch. So there, okay, so it hit for 35k there per tick. So, I mean, it kind of is the truth when it procs. The problem is the proc chance. So the proc rate is set to have a baseline average of procking once per minute, but that number scales up with your haste. So the more haste that you have, the more procs you should see per minute. Now, before we go any further, let's just pull up the talent. So Dance of ChiJi, how it reads is your spells and abilities have a chance to make your next spinning crane kick deal an additional 300% damage. So the way that I'm going to be breaking this spell down or trying to figure out how much damage this is actually converting into is think of it like this. We press spinning crane kick once, we get one spinning crane kick's worth of damage. But if this proc is active, if we have this buff ready to go, the next spinning crane kick that we press is going to do 4 times damage. Thus, we're going to get that normal damage that we would have gotten if we just pressed spinning crane kick without the buff, but then 3 additional spinning crane kicks worth of damage. So for super simplistic napkin math that you're going to be seeing shortly, if this procs 20 times in a dungeon, then we consume it 20 times, then we're going to get 60 free spinning crane kicks worth of damage. And yes, I say napkin math because yes, in the ideal world, all of these add up to the same amount of damage, but sometimes you might press spinning crane kick on 1 enemy versus 20 enemies. And obviously you're going to get more value from pressing on 20 enemies. That's why I've done additional research in different logs of different players that run this talent. And for the most part, the math has been consistent. So this is the napkin math that we did after my plus 26 Blackroot Hold for the first time, just trying out the math to see how much damage this does on stream. 26 procs in a dungeon is the equivalent of 78 free spinning crane kicks. Okay, let's do some napkin math. I gotta pull up a notepad and calculator. This is napkin math because it's not accounting for how much damage each spinning crane kick did, how much each, how many targets each spinning crane kick hit. But, okay, we had 168 casts of spinning crane kick. Those spinning crane kicks do, on average, 168 casts plus the equivalent of 78 extra casts. So we did, and I'm saying 78 extra casts because it does 3 times bonus damage. So if you have a proc ready, 1 spinning crane kick does 4 times the normal amount. So 3 times additional amount. So 168 plus 78. We basically had 246 spinning crane kicks worth of damage since in our 168 casts, 26 of them were bonus. As long as you guys are following me. So 31% of our spinning crane kick damage, 32% of our spinning crane kick damage came from this talent, right? Because of the 246 total spinning crane kicks worth of damage that we got off, 78 of those were the bonuses applied. So 31% of our overall damage. So this would equate to roughly times 29.94 9.5 million damage, which is about 7.5%. So 9.5 million damage. So this is about 7.5% of our overall damage. And this one key, very napkin math. Hopefully I didn't lose anyone. I mean, look, I think I do honestly think you get more out of this talent. Although it's not sexy, it doesn't proc often, I do think you get more out of this talent than putting the point in Secret Infusion or Focus Thunder. So as you see there, we found that in my specific key, yes, the sample size is 1, and yes, it is Napkin Math, we were able to kind of see that this talent contributed about 7.5% of my overall damage. Now, let's look at a log that is just posted, which, by the way, since this talent is still pretty fresh, the sample size has been a bit low because a lot of people are still stuck in their old builds that they were comfortable with, not really willing to take into higher keys this new talent. But this player did a plus 29 Everbloom key this week. And you can see here, well, one, you can see here, they are taking the new talent and they are not taking either of the talent points that we're going to be discussing as the competitors today. And Focus Thunder, some people just like myself would throw their extra spare point into Focus Thunder, but some people would just take 1 bonus point into Secret Infusion. Now, this player got 37 procs of this buff across this entire dungeon, which you see here, it was just over about 30 minutes, about 32 minutes. So already once per minute, you know, probably boosted by their haste amount. Pretty good. I mean, it's about average. It's what we would expect. So nothing like, no insane proc chances here. But yes, 37 total procs in the dungeon. Now, their total damage was pretty high because it's a high key, but you can see here, we're going to be looking at this number, spinning crane kick. They did a little under 60 million damage of their overall 209 million damage, and they did that by actually pressing spinning crane kick 298 times. And now I use that wording, actually pressing spinning crane kick 298 times, because if you remember, there are going to be some amount of this spinning crane kick damage can be attributed to the free bonus damage that these spinning crane kicks did, which, since it's a simple rounded number, we can kind of do that math and figure out roughly how much of this damage comes from this talent. So let's take a look at the math that I did. It's very similar to what I did on stream from my own key, but it's using the math from this one log in particular. And you'll see that the numbers do work out to be pretty similar. So this circle, this giant, horribly cropped circle, is the overall damage that this player did. So this circle kind of represents the 209 million overall damage. Then we take a look at the cut damage of their spinning crane kick damage. They did 59.63 million overall spinning crane kick damage, which worked out to be 28.51% of their overall damage. And that number comes from here. So 28.5% of their overall damage. Yeah, so we're getting all the numbers from their log. Now, we come to the next slide. Let's do some proc math. So as we saw on this other page, they got 37 total procs of Dance of ChiJi, which equates to they consumed 37 procs, and with those 37 procs, did 111 bonus spinning crane kicks worth of damage. Because you remember, each proc makes your next spinning crane kick do 4 times the normal damage, so 3 times the normal extra damage, which is what we can actually attribute to this talent. Sorry, I keep explaining it, but just to make sure we're on the same page. So yes, they pressed 298 spinning crane kicks, but that plus the number of bonus spinning crane kicks worth of damage equates to about 409 spinning crane kicks worth of damage. So then we can take that number and split up their actual spinning crane kick damage. So yes, they did do 59. Sorry, it's cropped a little weird. They did do 59.63 million total overall spinning crane kick damage. Maybe I can drag this down a bit. They did do that much damage, but 72.9% comes from this number here. So 72.9% is 298, which is the actual number of spinning crank kicks they pressed, over the total number of spinning crank kicks worth of damage. So 72.9% equals about 43.45 million. And then the rest of that spinning crank kick damage comes from this 111 spinning crank kicks worth of damage that comes from the procking of this talent. So, we're lagging. So about 27.1% of the overall spinning crank kick damage that they did can be attributed in this case to the proc chance of, or the procs of this talent, or about 16.18 million of their overall damage. So we take that 16.18 million damage that they did with this talent and put it over their total number of damage that they did, which is 209 million. And we can see that the math works out pretty similarly to what I did on stream. Yes, I kind of did the same math process to find this number, but unless I'm crazy and just completely messing this up, this is roughly, like very roughly, the amount of percent of your damage that you can attribute to this talent. And now, yes, if you just literally never press spinning crane kick or just suboptimally use spinning crane kick, then this number will look a lot lower because you're not going to be consuming those procs and all that stuff. Or if you literally only press spinning crane kick when you have this proc, this number will be insane. You know, so there are some ways that you can skew this, but this was taken from a random person's log, very natural occurrence of them using this talent. My log, where I played just like I always do, and it worked out to be 7.5% of my overall damage, 7.7% of this player's overall damage. Now, I think part of that comes from this being Everbloom is just a slightly better spinning crane kick dungeon than Blackrock Hold. That's kind of maybe where this comes from. But as you can see here, 7.7% of your overall damage from one talent point is a good amount. And especially when you take a look at where we were putting this talent point before this talent existed. And let's do that. Let's take a look at those two talent nodes that I said people put this talent point into before this talent existed. So let's take a look at some sims that I ran. Now, I did a sim. It's a dungeon slice, so it's just a 6-minute slice of a dungeon. So it's not going to be perfect because, yes, it's a sim and it's a dungeon slice. But it's enough to show us kind of a similar trend that we're picking up on. So I simmed a couple different things. I had my raid build equipped, so you're going to see my raid build here. This is how much damage I would do if I took my Yulon build into a Mythic Plus environment. So not a lot of DPS. But then I took this build here, where instead of taking Dance of ChiJi, we took 1 point into Secret Infusion, like a lot of people are used to doing. And you see here it did this much damage, or this much DPS on the sim, and I simmed it a couple times, and the numbers literally stayed the exact same, maybe a little bit off, but the same order, roughly the same. We also took the talent build where we run Dance of ChiJi instead of that Secret Infusion point. And then lastly, we took the talent build where we run Focus Thunder instead of Dance of ChiJi. Now, I think the reason, which by the way, this one, the Focus Thunder build did sim slightly higher in terms of just damage, and then next in line was Dance of ChiJi, and then next in line after that was Secret Infusion, and then obviously my raid build, just to kind of show it you know, it sucks as far as damage comes. But I believe part of the reason why it simmed higher, the Focus Thunder build simmed higher, is because it is doing a 6-minute slice of a dungeon where you're fighting a boss with only one target, and you're gonna see more damage in a single target environment from the boss pool that it's trying to simulate from Focus Thunder, because that's just more Rising Sun kicks you're gonna get. And then also, since you're doing probably a couple, I think how it sims it in the 6-minute slice is it does like 2 trash pools, or like a few trash pools, and then 1 boss. So then you're going to see kind of a realistic thing where you start to see Dance of ChiJi out damage Secret Infusion. So I just thought that was cool running the sim. But I also want to show you guys that if you do decide to run Secret Infusion just because you think it does more damage, let me do the math a little differently, okay? So Secret Infusion, if you put 1 point into it, then every time that you press Thunder Focus Tea, which is up every 30 seconds, you're going to get a 10-second buff. So if you literally use your Thunder Focus Tea every 30 seconds, right once it comes off cooldown, you play that as optimally as possible, you will have a 33% uptime of Secret Infusion. So 33% of the time, you will have an 8% stat boost, which already, hopefully you can kind of see that we basically did the math where our new talent does about 7.7, almost 8% of our overall damage. And then hopefully you can see that if you had an 8% stat boost, that doesn't even equate to 8% bonus damage. Then already you can see if you have 33% uptime, you're getting about a third of an 8% damage boost. So already the math just does not add up to where putting that point in Secret Infusion would be better than Dance of ChiJi. Now, yes, Dance of ChiJi, to kind of wrap things up, yes, it procs very seldomly or very rarely, but when it procs, it packs a punch. And if you already have like this dead weight talent that doesn't really do anything, it's just like a small stat stick for free, because literally where else are you going to put this talent? In Resplendent Mist? Absolutely not. Yu'lon's Whisper? No thank you. Peaceful Mending? Sorry, try again, buff it again. You know, like where else are you going to put this talent? Other than Focus Thunder for bonus Rising Sun kicks, or double Enveloping Mist kind of shenanigans, or Secret Infusion for a free stat stick. And my answer is I will continue to push this talent. I think, yes, the proc rate's low, but it's still good. The numbers show it is adding a lot more damage. Your spinning crane kicks slam when this is on an AoE pack and it procs. I will continue to take Dance of ChiJi when I'm on a fortified week, because I want to do more. I care more about not overall damage, but I care more about my AoE cleaving damage in a fortified pack on fortified weeks. But then I'll probably put this point into Focus Thunder on tyrannical packs. I care more about my single target damage or priority damage even on tyrannical weeks, because you know you're trying to fly through these big pools on tyrannical weeks and you have to prioritize your target, kill the one thing that is going to keep the pack alive longest. I care more about those Rising Sun kicks on tyrannical weeks versus bosses than I probably would spinning crane kicks on small, weaker packs. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Look, I don't really know the purpose of this video other than to show you guys, yes, it procs pretty rarely, but it still could be worth it. And I challenge you to kind of do your own math. Look at your own logs, start logging your Mythic Plus dungeons, and see, is it procking a lot for you? Maybe there's some different ways that you can kind of optimize this. And I kind of still want to do a lot of testing. And let me go ahead and just like spray out some of the things that I'm going to be testing on this talent and see if you guys have already tested. Now, the way it's worded, the way this new talent is worded is very similar to the way that Feline Stomp is worded. So Feline Stomp or Jadefire Stomp says your abilities have a 6% chance of resetting this cooldown. And then Dance of ChiJi says your spells and abilities have a chance to make your spinning crane kick. You know, it gives you have a chance with your spells and abilities to proc. They both are worded very similarly. It's just now on Jadefire Stomp we have a number. But one of the synergies with Jadefire Stomp that you guys are probably already aware of is Chi Burst behaves very weirdly. Yes, all of your spells do have, per button press, have a 6% chance of resetting your Feline Stomp. But if you Chi Burst and shoot it through 30 enemies / allies, then your Chi Burst will proc once, trying to reset Jadefire per person that it shoots through. So Chi Burst, I want to see if it has a higher, or if it behaves similarly, where every person it passes through gives you a chance of giving you Dance of ChiJi. I want to test that. And then also the same, kind of on the same note, your Blackout Kick cleaves also each have a 6% chance, or I guess bonus % chance to reset your Feline Stomp, just like Chi Burst kind of similarly does. So if you cleave onto 3 targets, you have 3 coin flips with a 6% chance of resetting that Jadefire Stomp. I want to see if each of those also has a bonus chance. So can we game this talent to get more procs? If we do our single target rotation, Do we get more procs than if we just were to spam spinning crane kick? If we use Chi Burst more often, do we have, on big AoE packs, do we have more procs per minute because does it work like that? These are the things that I want to test and see if it works, and I'm sure you guys might already have that answer. If so, leave it in the comments below. And in fact, leave any findings that you have already or any memes about this talent down in the comments below. But guys, that's going to do it for this video. A huge shout out to the patrons of this channel. These are the names that you guys see on screen. And if you want to join them in carrying this channel and letting me continue doing YouTube videos on this random class in a random game, then check out that link down in the description below. And while you're down there, check out my Twitch, all those links, because that's how you see when I go live, and I would really appreciate it. But guys, make sure you're subscribed, like the video if you like this content, if you want to see more Mistweaver stuff other than just the 3K series that we're working on. But thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully, I don't think any of this is conclusive, but you know, it is. I kind of think that I am pointing out like a rough statistic that I just wanted to share with you guys and see if the community can help me build off this to make it conclusive. But guys, thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.